Dudes and dudettes, how are you guys? This is Chazzy and welcome back to Telechazzy, the segment on this channel where I review the many television series that I watch over the years across many different genres, right? And this right here is sort of like a way for me to bring different kinds of content to you guys while I do other kinds of content at the same time, you know? If that didn't make sense, let me explain. Lately, I have been playing Cuphead. Here is a link to the playlist. At this point, I believe there are 10 videos in there for you guys to watch. I am halfway through the entire game at this point on my channel, and so because of what I've been doing, you know, playing Cuphead, I decided to come over here today and review something that's actually very similar, which is the Cuphead show. In case you guys don't know, yes, Studio MDHR actually did put together a 3-season television series here. Well, no, they put together the show itself, and then the later seasons came later. That's how series works. That's how TV shows work. Freaking jazzy. So now the Cuphead show actually premiered back in 2022, and like I said earlier, there are 3 different seasons. Now, each episode ranges from, from 10 to 34 minutes, but usually the vast majority are around 15 minutes or so, right? There are a few specials like this Christmas episode that's a little bit long, but it's actually a lot of fun. And now, it actually ran from February 18th to November 18th, so unfortunately it was not renewed for a 4th season and beyond, which is a shame because this show is really a lot of fun to watch, especially if you played the original game that it's based on, Dave Wasson produced it, well, developed it, right? The production companies were, among others, Netflix Animation and Studio MDHR itself, then there's also Syndicate and King Features, right? So they came together to produce this show for Netflix, who distributed it. Dave Wasson produced quite a few shows from our childhood, on Cartoon Network, like the Buzz on Maggie, for example. He also did the what's that other show? I forgot what it was. It's not Adventure Time. It's okay, I forgot. But anyway, so he actually has a really creative mind when it comes to making animated TV shows geared towards a younger audience. And this show right here takes place, of course, in Inkwell Isle, but we see the characters, Cuphead and Mugman, going through these misadventures, with a lot of different characters and interacting with them. So the voice animation is really stellar. It's awesome. It's a great watch, honestly. And if you happen to play the game before watching it, the game gives you rage and the show gives you joy. I don't know how to explain it, man. It just makes me feel so much better, watching the show and playing the game, because it's almost like in my head, it's like everybody's friendly, all of the characters are cool, it's all good. But I really like this show a lot, the slapstick comedy. I'm going to talk a little bit about the plot and break down the episode summary, but before that, let's take a little clip here from season 1, perhaps.
Let me introduce you to some friends of mine.
Pretty cool, huh? Very nostalgic because it's really reminiscent of the 1930s animation style. Exactly like the game, honestly. It's pretty much identical to the game, except the characters are now anthropomorphic, the Cup brothers, and they live with Elder Kettle in Inkwell Isle. So Inkwell Isle 1, 2, and 3, we see all of them, put together here in one huge setting in the actual series. Now, Cuphead is a little bit more impulsive and reckless, and Mugman is more conservative and safe, cautious. So they kind of each one serves as a fully to each other, right? Now, each season here deals with them getting into wacky misadventures here and there. Season 1 is mostly, setting up the universe itself, like how exactly they behave. We are introduced to them a little bit more as they interact with a few characters from the show, most of which are villains, right? So did I say the show? They interact with characters from the game, most of which are villains in the game. The bosses that we fight in the game are actual characters here, and many are antagonistic, right? So now, we deal with them. The main crust of the first season is the devil trying to steal their souls, or rather just Cuphead's soul, because he loses at a game of soul ball, right? So then the devil, there's a recurring theme in season 1 where the devil is constantly trying to outwit him and grab his soul, where we also see them, meeting different characters, like for example, Ruby and Croaks, who run a little casino boat, right? They're actually kind of, douches, they're like former boxers. I like how the bosses in the game get actual backstories, to expand on the lore here in this this show. And we see a lot of character development here as well. We see the Root Pack, for example, abusing their little garden there. And the minor characters like Elder Kettle becomes a major role. He's kind of like the father figure to Cuphead and Mugman, so they live together and they're always trying to, one up each other, and Elder Kettle is trying to, keep them under control. And now it essentially, like, the season 2 kind of like takes a little back seat with the whole devil wanting their soul plot, because it turns into kind of like a Looney Tunes cartoon where the devil is constantly outwitted by them. But in season 2 we see a few different characters, a few more villains, right? And we get more backstories established as well. I think it's a lot of fun, honestly. Me personally, season 1 was really awesome, and season 2 is just as good, if not even better, because it just keeps building. And towards the end we see another character called Miss Chalice, who is the one in Cuphead and the Delicious Last Course, right? So she becomes kind of like a friend to them, but at the same time she is a little, I don't know, she's kind of hard to trust. She is one of those main characters that she's one of the secondary characters who becomes a main character, and at one point they even go to jail. Their brothers go to jail for a crime that they didn't actually commit, because of her. So it's really cool to see them breaking out. There's also this episode called High Seas Adventure where we see Captain Brineybeard, who has a thing for Cala Maria, right? Each episode is really, really well written, in my opinion. I think it's really cool how they go up against all of these villains in a way that actually is much more family friendly than what the game would suggest, and it's really cool. Season 3 is where we have the return of the devil. Like midway through season 2 he remembers that they exist and he goes after them, with the help of King Dice, for example. Season 3 are where the episodes get a little bit longer, right? But they also has fewer. It only has 11 episodes, but this is where we kind of see the climax of everything. And each one is a little bit more serious and less grounded than the others, but not in a bad way, because I really think that there's even an episode where the devil is playing Santa Claus, delivering presents to everybody. It's really interesting how they give the devil character, of all the characters in the show, they give him kind of like a sympathetic background, a sympathetic personality rather, right? So I think it's really cool. And towards the end there's kind of like, because it's Cuphead, right, the devil has to try to take their soul one more time, and that's where they have a dance off between him and Miss Chalice to see who's going to win and keep their souls. And it's hilarious because the whole thing is decided by a game of rock, paper, scissors between Cuphead and the devil. It's freaking hilarious. I love it so much, man. I like how Porkrine is a minor character who has his own shop, and sells them stuff, and occasionally sends them on missions and whatnot. It's really cool, man. I really think it's awesome. Like, even though there are 36 episodes, like it's a very episodic show, as in the episodes aren't like connected directly to the other, even though the devil wanting their souls is a recurring theme. I think it's really cool. It's hilarious, honestly. And before I talk a little bit more about the characters and everything else, let's take a look at another clip here from season 2, if I can get one.
I'm sorry I got you tossed in the hoosegow.
So many nights in the slammer. The Crowbar Hotel.
The Stony Lonesome. Gee, I had no idea. We can stay here at the boring old cottage, or we can go out into the real world and live. What do you say? We're rich.
Never before have I been subjected to such disrespect by a mortal.
In my personal opinion, and this should be pretty obvious, should kind of go without saying, the best part of this animated series for me was the voice cast. Everybody has such talent that they bring to the table, especially the brothers. True Valentino voicing Cuphead, and his little partner in crime is fully there, Frank Tadaro as Mugman. These two have such chemistry on screen. Even though they're just voicing animated characters, they just bring so much life and essence into them, because the brothers are exact polar opposites, right? So they kind of play off of each other in a way that feels natural. Like, if you have a sibling who happens to have different interests as you, then you can relate, right? Even though they sometimes fight and split up and go their separate ways, they always come back to save each other's skins. We also have Graydon Lisley, the legendary Hollywood voice actress who pretty much voiced everything, everybody and everything in every single way, right? Voicing Miss Chalice, who is kind of like a tragic anti-hero, right? Abandoned at an orphanage, and then at one point she, starts using her tap dancing skills to, sway others into giving her what she wants, until she gets struck by a car, and goes down to the underworld where the devil wants to claim her soul, but she makes a deal with him, right, where she can remain half mortal, half ghost, and continue to do her things. But eventually she's gonna have to cash in on a favor, and you can probably imagine where this is going. Eventually he wants the favor to be her to deliver Cuphead's soul, to him, right? He's obsessed with that soul. We have Johanna, or Hana as Elder Kettle, who in the game he has pretty much zero importance at all, you know, no impact, but here he actually becomes a major character. You know, he's the guardian figure, you know, the paternal, you know, fatherly figure to the Cuphead and Mugman brothers, you know, the Cup brothers, you know, the thingy right there, right? So I think it's really cool. Very good voice acting as well, and I really like what they did to the character in the show. We also have Cosmos Serguson as Pork Rind and Elephant. I don't know what Elephant is. Maybe it's that character, you know, wearing a hoodie who keeps coming in to buy stuff from him. I don't remember exactly who that is. Very good performance as well. I think it really emulates the character that we came to see in the game, right? Who's kind of like this harsh, rude, you know, salesman of sorts that doesn't really care about the brothers at all, which makes sense. We have Wayne Brady as King Dice, and it was a very, very good performance. I really like Wayne Brady, man. Like, it's very strange because he seemed to capture exactly what King Dice was from the game, right? The mannerisms, you know, the way that he speaks, right? Everything just, I don't know, a very underrated voice actor here, but not as underrated as Luke Millington Drake as the devil himself. Luke is by far the best actor in this entire thing. He's the best voice actor. I don't even care about anybody else when I'm comparing to him, because the character of the devil was so well written, right? Because he is the ultimate villain. It's the freaking devil, you know? He is the worst villain of all villains in anything in any media ever. And yet, because it's an animated show aimed at a younger audience, he actually is really fun to watch, right? I think that Luke brought so much to the table here. He gave him a really nice personality, right? And you know, even when he's down there in hell, you know, doing his evil stuff, you know, it's kind of charming and even kind of wholesome to watch in a way, right? So really cool. We also have Dave Wasson, you know, the guy who developed the show, you know, voicing Henchman and Telephone, right? Telephone, I believe, is that little phone, the animated phone that goes around getting his soul taken all the time, the old tiny phone, right? Henchman is really cool. It's like a perfect fully to the devil, right? Like his second hand, almost a second in command, who's always trying to do good by him and also, you know, tries to keep him uplifted, right? It's really cool. We have Chris Waldy as Ribby, who's one of the Frog Brothers, right? The other one being Rick Zaif, you know, who voices Croaks. Really nice, you know. I like how they have their little languages, you know, how they're speaking like in 1930s slang in their voices as well. I personally think it's really freaking awesome and it's cool. And then we have, of course, Andrew Morgado as Stickler, who is as the name says, he's a stickler, you know, he's the guy who is always trying to enforce the rules, you know, and the guidelines or whatever, right? He's trying to keep everybody on the straight and narrow despite working in hell. It's freaking awesome. There's a plot point where we see that in the North Pole, even Santa has one. I thought that was really funny. We have Keith Ferguson as Bullboy, who is a very annoying character who tries to be friends with Cuphead and Mugman, but he's always failing because they just don't like him. He's not a very likable character anyway to begin with. I really don't see what the point of him is. Then we also have Natasha Dimitri as Cala Maria, who has a very thick accent, you know, maybe from Middle Eastern or something, I don't really know, but she has a very interesting accent. She's kind of like she's a gigantic monster, you know, in the game. She's freaking huge and really scary, you know, with her Medusa effect like eyes, you know, that can turn into a statue. And we have Zoe Moss as Baroness von Bonbon, who's also a really underrated character. You know, we see an entire episode dedicated to her where, you know, they go into her Candyland and they are able to eat anything except for her castle, you know, but then, you know, she turns them into candy and, you know, wants to eat them and whatnot. You know, it's really interesting. Like the second season, you know, like it establishes before the devil shows up, you know, halfway through they establish different characters, different villains, and that's where I believe she shows up, if I remember correctly. Then finally we have Jason Van Brake, you know, as Captain Brinybeard, who is Cala Maria's love interest, you know, really cool mannerisms, the way that he voices him, you know, like actually sounding like a legit real pirate. I think it was really awesome, man. The voice cast is so well rounded, honestly. I love it so much, man. I think it's really cool how everybody came together and played off of each other so naturally. It is awesome. This is one of the best animated series that I've watched in a long time. Totally freaking underrated. Now, before we talk a little bit about the development, production, and, you know, some accolades, let's take a look at a clip from season 3.
Because we're gonna have a high seas adventure! We could end up dead. That, my little blue-nosed friend, is why it's called an adventure!
You have taken something of great value to me, so I shall take something of great value to you.
Now, this entire series here was animated by a company called Lighthouse Studios, right? And Screen Novelties, another company, provided the stop motion animation sequences, right? Now, originally they actually wanted to do hand-drawn animation, you know, like in the actual game, you know, that it's based on. But unfortunately, because of streaming series deadlines, you know, the production crew wasn't able to, you know, so they instead, you know, used some puppet-based methods, you know, and other elements to simulate the 1930s rubber hose style, you know, that stuff right there, like the old time Disney shows and movies and whatnot. It was really cool. I think the final outcome was really nice, and there are some sources that cited it as, you know, too fragmented and often repetitive and was too short, you know. But if you honestly look at it for what it actually is, which is an animated series aimed at a young audience based on a very popular video game, you know, I think it did really well, honestly, man. You know, like I just want to get this out of the way. My rating for this show is a 10 out of 10. I love the Cuphead show so much, and this is what I'm going to give it here, right? Because my opinion might be biased because I'm a gamer who happens to love the original Cuphead game released in 2017. I still play today. I'm doing it for YouTube right now, right? So I have beaten it multiple times, and I don't know, man. I think that there's something very special about that game and the way that it, you know, captivated the gaming world and its unique nature, right? And its approach to taking on bosses and whatnot. So having a Foley like this, having a complementary material like a television series, right? I think to me it's really, really cool, man. And you know, Eagle Plum was the guy who produced, you know, the music for it. The music was so freaking awesome, and the opening theme, the ending theme, right? The little soundtrack that plays. The opening of every single episode is kind of like those old-timey Disney cartoon openings, you know, with all the color letters and the backgrounds and the old-timey classic music. Throughout the show itself, you can actually see elements of the old-timey animation, you know, like how the game does like those little flickeries of the screen, like the little, how can I say, like little, you know, sparks and splotches here and there, you know, to simulate the old-timey film reel. That is so cool, man. The animation is gorgeous, you know. Character development is awesome. Each episode gives you a different adventure to follow, and because it pulls directly from the game, you can recognize elements from it, you know, some random minor characters, major characters, you know, protagonists, antagonists, the actual aisles, you know, the places themselves. Everything is so cool, man. You know, it's almost like having watched this show again recently, you know, I rewatched it so I can review it, right? It made me want to play the game even more, and playing the game makes me want to watch the show again, right? So that's how it is, and I love it so much, and I can't wait to play the DLC. Unfortunately, Netflix, as far as I know, did not renew it for another season, so that's actually why I'm reviewing it, you know. Usually I only review shows that, you know, whenever the final season drops and there's no more coming out, that's why when I review them. So I personally think it was really cool, man. Don't listen to the haters, you know, don't listen to the critics. Everything about this, you know, the world building, storytelling was just great. Everything about this show was awesome. Like I said earlier, 10 out of 10, solid 5 out of 5, 100%, 5 stars, whatever the heck you want to call it, you know. It's awesome, dude. Now, let me know in the comments below if you guys happen to watch this show, you know, if you happen to see it, you know, if you happen to like it. Although if you hadn't seen it yet, you just gave yourself a bunch of spoilers, you know, but hey, that's what reviews are for, right? They're gonna be spoilers anyway. So let me know down there. Everything, man. Just, oh my God. I love it so much. And that's it for now, guys. That has been my review of the Cuphead show. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you happen to enjoy this video, please go ahead and give it a like, and also subscribe to my channel because I release videos every single day, every single week, sorry. And while you're at it, hit the notification bell too so you can know exactly what time I upload in. It's all good. Subscribe to my other channels. Aside from Chaz, you have Chazzy Plus, Chazzy Cast, and Chazzy Cast BR, you know, for podcasts in English and Portuguese. So it's all good. Let me know, guys. Let me know what you guys think about all of this and whatnot. Ha! So this is Chazzy signing out for now, and as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Roll the outro screen.